Hello everyone, it's me, Empress Dawn, and welcome to the second episode for Honkai Impact 3rd Beginner's Guide. The last episode did surprisingly well, and you guys actually met the light goal, so here's the second episode. In today's episode, we are going to be focusing on something I don't see get mentioned quite enough, and that is the value that SP Valkyries bring. SP Valkyries, for the record, are Valkyries that you can forge yourself and you never need to roll on the gacha for when it comes to the character itself. Now, the weapons and such you do. I will be going over what makes each SP Valkyrie unique and why you would want them on your team, because they will be able to help provide support to your strongest DPS in multiple teams. And nothing says that some of these SP Valkyries, even though they may be geared towards one element, can't be used in other teams. So let's start with Phyllis. The one SP Valkyrie I have that I actually do not have the gear for, but thankfully Jade Knight's Stigmata actually does very well for her. So the nice thing about Phyllis is not only is she very fun and very fast to control, but she is pretty much, in my opinion, one of the best SP generators for your team. The way she works is you want to combine her charge attack with her rapid slashes, and then unleash her ultimate, which inflicts rhyme trauma on the enemy, which is basically an ice debuff. But more importantly, it will provide energy SP to the entire team and help you fire off your ultimates for everyone, and it'll help get things going. And again, the really nice thing about Phyllis in particular is that you can actually throw her on any elemental team if you give her the right stigmata to boost said element. There is one stigmata that is outdated, but it does provide a constant buff. It leaves a field around where after the character leaves the battlefield or initiates an attack, it will boost all elemental damage. And that's a good universal support stigmata for her if you're using her in a non-ice team. Again, she is really, really good when it comes to providing SP for the team, and it really makes things a lot easier for your DPS or your other supports that have a high SP cost. I would absolutely recommend that she's one of the first you would want to try to get either the gear for, or at least her weapon, because it helps her SP generation like crazy. Now, moving on to...
私はただの歌い手。ステージのためにある光に過ぎない。
I completely forgot I had the voices on. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving on to the second character I would recommend you would want to raise is Eden or Eden, not exactly sure how you would properly say it, but like Phyllis, she is an amazing SP generator for your entire team. But one thing that, in my opinion, makes her more free-to-play friendly is, other than her weapon, you can actually forge her best-in-slot Stigmata, and it's currently right now, it is the best lightning team buff you can apply to your entire team. And again, you can craft this. One thing that makes her really good is her weapon skill helps with her SP generation, and then using her ultimate not only boosts lightning damage for the entire team, but it greatly increases their SP generation. With the exception of ones that need SP for like 125, like Hersher of Thunder, you can actually get away with like 1 or 2 complete team swaps and be able to fire off ultimates back to back to back for everyone. It's not as good as Phyllis, but it's very much up there. And again, I can't understate this. Her Stigmata is so good that it not only provides a lightning buff to the entire team, but you can even use her Stigmata as a best in slot for a number of lightning DPSs if you don't already have their signature Stigmata and you're not using Eden on the team. Very good for Elysian Realm runs. I know I do that for Hersher of Thunder. It actually performs better than her best in slot, which is actually kind of funny. But yeah, Eden is definitely worth crafting the parts for that you get in the shop. So yeah, Eden and Phyllis absolutely have my highest recommendation when it comes to the SP Valkyries you want to raise first.
今日も崩壊サードであったね。
Now, when it comes to she is basically what brought back the fire team from the abyss of wholly terrible SP generation. And not only that, she has a chakram that she can fling around, and it is so incredibly satisfying to hit over and over. But I digress. One thing that makes easily the best signature support for fire teams is the fact that, again, she greatly helps with the SP generation of your fire team, which before her release was actually being covered by Eden and Phyllis mainly. But now that we have Ichon, she greatly not only helps with increasing your fire team's SP generation, but she also helps grouping enemies together and constantly dealing a whole bunch of hits with her not only signature rolling attack, but also her ultimate, which again keeps enemies in place and constantly deals ignite, which again helps with your fire teams. So she keeps enemies in place. She helps drain those annoying shields that are reliant on hit count more than actual damage. And again, she significantly increases the power of your fire teams. You pretty much only ever want to use her on fire teams, but she's absolutely the best support you can have for fire teams. Outside of, no, actually, even with Hersher of Truth, Ichon is still irreplaceable. So you absolutely want to get her, and you will want to use her on basically every fire team you have. She just brings so much value with the SP generation, the increased fire damage, being able to help group enemies together like you see there. And then her burst basically just creates a bigger fire ring like you see here, and they're all just stuck there. Okay, you didn't see it there, but what you basically want to do with her is you want to do the first fire ring and then her ultimate to create an even bigger fire ring and help them all stack together in one place. So yeah, Ichon, when it comes to your fire team, you're going to want to raise her ASAP. And when it comes to her weapon, you will absolutely want to get... I guess that is one thing I should say for future use, is that you always, no matter what character you're using, you always want to have their signature weapon to help them perform better. It's not like Genshin where, oh, you can just throw X weapon and it'll probably do the job. No, having their weapon is like the equivalent of a constellation for them. Now, when it comes to her stigmata, which are gacha only, I would heavily recommend them as well if you have the crystals for it. It will greatly increase your fire team's damage. And as of right now, there isn't a stigmata that comes... Actually, no, there is one stigmata, Raven stigmata, but that is not a free-to-play craftable stigmata. So if you really focus on Ichon and you're going to want her as a signature part of your fire teams, you will definitely want to try to get her stigmata to help increase your team's damage and SP generation. Now,
星たちの住む場所はどんな感じなのかな?
Moving on to Grayshow. Grayshow right now is the only SP Valkyrie that helps physical. Well, the current... we are actually getting some new SP physical Valkyries in the future, but I can't judge their performance all that much. But what I can tell you about Grayshow, besides being an adorable painter lolly, is she significantly increases the power of your physical teams, and she helps with the bleeding debuff. In fact, I don't even have a bleeding signature team set up, but all I need to bring is Grayshow and whatever other team member I wish for the bleeding ranked, and that is more than enough to get the job done. Grayshow, she won't help with your SP generation like the other Valkyries I've mentioned, but she will greatly increase the damage of your physical team. And she's actually very good at regenerating her own SP, because as you see here, you use the alt button 3 times without actually holding it, so you do 3 different sets of paint, and that regenerates a lot of SP for her. And her signature weapon will drop down her weapon, and it will inflict the bleeding debuff on them and heavily increase physical damage. And the same also applies to her ultimate. It heavily increases your team's physical damage while they remain on the field. Now, there is another SP Valkyrie that does this as well, but she's nowhere near as good as Grayshow. Now, again, in the future, we will be getting a new SP support for physical, but I can't judge how they are, but considering Honkai really never messes up when it comes to how good a character is for the future, it's definitely worth investing in them. As for her stigmata, let me actually check something real quick. I can't remember if this is craftable, but I do not believe that it is. No, it isn't. And her stigmata greatly increases the damage of your physical teams. But here's the thing about physical in ranked. It doesn't come up as often as other elementals, so you'll eventually want a strong physical team, but at least as for right now, you can put physical a bit on the back foot. You still want to have a strong physical team for when it comes up in ranked. Now, there is a chance with the direction the story is going that physical is going to get a resurgence, and this may not age well, but as of right now, that is how it applies. Moving on, let's see, what other SPs are there?
公女の名のもとに
Yes, Fischl is actually in this game, believe it or not, and she still performs incredibly well. The thing with Fischl is you fire off her bow in order to generate SP for yourself and boost the lightning damage for your entire team. And her ultimate, which summons Oz and just rains down lightning like you saw there just now, it deals a massive amount of multiple hits against the enemy, which helps break shields related to the amount of hits they take. Fischl will dramatically increase the power of your lightning teams, and she's basically only 4 lightning teams, unlike Eden and Phyllis. One thing that really helps with her is she is able to summon Oz at any time by just holding the attack, and she will deal out multiple damage with Oz when you switch to other characters. Now, Fischl does suffer a bit from her high SP cost for her ultimate, so she does get a little bit less of a priority than Eden, but if you don't have Hersher of Truth, which basically replaces her, then Fischl and Eden is basically your go-to when it comes to your lightning teams, as well as whatever DPS you choose to have. So she has a little bit less priority than Phyllis and Eden, but yeah. And when it comes to her stigmata, it also has a little bit less of a priority, because again, you can craft Eden's signature best in slot set for her. Granted, that means you would have to give Eden a different stigmata set, but when it comes to that, there are alternatives you can give to Fischl, and they will do quite well when it comes to her stigmata, but her signature stigmata will still outperform everything except for Eden's best in slot stigmata. So I would definitely recommend her as a must-have for your lightning team, unless you have Hersher of Truth. Moving on. Alright, Raven. Yeah, Raven's not SP.
ブロニーの新しい計画を知りたいですか
Now, here is one of my personal favorite SP Valkyries, and that would be Haxor Bunny Bronia. Haxor Bunny Bronia is another fantastic Valkyrie you can have for your ice teams. In fact, I still use her to this day, although that mainly might be because I don't have Phyllis signature stigmata. But regardless, Haxor Bunny Bronia has significantly helped my ice teams, because the way she works is you fire off her charge attack in order to get her little drones out, and she will actually recover SP while off the field. So you can bring in either another support or your DPS, and then she's able to recover her SP. And you're able to use her weapon active, which, if you have her weapon, increases the damage of your ice characters for a set amount of time. And her ultimate does that even further. And again, one thing that really helps Bronia that I can't understate is the fact that you just fire off her charge attack, and then until you need to switch back to her to keep the pace going for having her stuff be active while off field, you're able to use everyone else and deal crazy amounts of damage without switching to her very often, as you see here. Now, when it comes to her stigmata, there are a number of alternative ice stigmata that you can give her when it comes to support, but again, it won't perform nearly as well as her best in slot. So I would say it's definitely worth going for her stigmata, and especially her weapon. It definitely overwhelmingly increases. Oh yeah, her ultimate. Again, it heavily increases the damage of your ice team members, and it just looks incredibly cool. I mean, look at this. It's just like, oh man, it's just so cool. She is one of the most satisfying characters to play when it comes to ice teams. So yeah, she definitely gets my recommendation. Moving on to the next SP Valkyrie. Alright, she's not SP, so I can't bring her up. SP. Alright. This is actually a character I personally do not use much myself, but I'll go over her anyway. Carol's main role for your physical teams is breaking shields. And that's basically it. Unfortunately, I don't think she's nearly as much fun to play as she is in a post-Honkai Odyssey. Now, this will probably speak to the value Carol brings, but because I do not have her stigmata and I've never raised up her weapon, I never really use her on physical teams. But that's also because I have her share of Sentience and Grayshow, which basically is the go-to for every physical team. Now, one thing that's definitely not helping Carol is in the future, around 2 patches from when this video comes out, so probably in around 2 months after this video has been released, we are getting a new SP Physical Valkyrie, which basically does the same thing Carol does, but better. And it's another Bronia face, so that automatically makes it better. So I can't exactly recommend Carol. Especially, I can't recommend going for her stigmata, especially since, again, we are getting a new SP Physical Shield Breaking Valkyrie. And the same also goes for her weapon, but if you manage to get her weapon from a spook, if you don't have her share of Sentience, she's definitely still worth bringing to your team to help with those annoying shield enemies. But overall, I can't really give her a high recommendation because, again, unlike in the mode she comes from, a post-Honkai Odyssey, she's not as satisfying to play. Now, she still is satisfying to play, but just she doesn't have nearly as much mobility as a post-Honkai Odyssey. So she's definitely at the bottom for my lowest recommendations right now, especially since, again, we are getting a new SP battlesuit, which you will be able to, again, get for free, and will basically replace her. So she gets a low recommendation from me, personally. Moving on... Is there any other... No, there's 2... Yeah, there's only 2 more SP Valkyries to go over.
道が険しくとも世がそばにいるわ。
Long-legged Terry Terry, as I call her, or Starlet Astrologos. Before Grayshow came out, this was basically the second best physical support in the game. But now that Grayshow is out, she basically doesn't see any use unless there's like a memorial arena where there's 2 physical bosses you need to deal with, and you gotta choose to have Starlet Astrologist on there. Now, with that said, I do actually have her fully geared, not only because she's an amazing character from her story, but she actually, despite being outdated, is not that bad. She has very good SP generation, both on-field and off-field, and she helps group together enemies with her ultimate, which summons a giant tornado, and anything hit by it will take a debuff, which has them take more physical damage. And another thing about her ultimate evasion is she will leave something behind, which if you step on it will trigger time fracture, which will freeze the enemy in place. Now, her weapon itself will help with increasing your team's physical damage, because although to my memory you have to actually have her on field, unlike the others. She still has one that she still has a support skill for off field, but it's not quite as effective as when you swap to her and then drop her weapon. Now, when it comes to her stigmata, you can actually craft her stigmata now currently. It'll take some time, but you can craft it. So if you don't have anything else, she can still work on your physical teams, but Grayshow is definitely the superior physical support right now. She gets a higher recommendation from me than Carol when it comes to that. But again, Grayshow just outperforms her in every way. Though I should state, if you do manage to fully gear your long-legged Terry Terry, as I call her, she will outperform Grayshow if she doesn't have any of her gears or weapons. Because that's the thing with these characters, is if you have a fully geared character, they will most likely perform better than a newer Valkyrie that doesn't have their signature gear. With the exception of something like some G4 stigmatas, which you can craft yourself. Again, she's not bad, but she is outdated. You can still use her, just Grayshow is, in general, a better choice. And the last SP Valkyrie I will be talking about is Darkbolt Jonin, who, unlike all of the other SP Valkyries, is not a support, but rather a DPS. And it's because of that she actually gets my lowest recommendation out of all the SP Valkyries, because Back when I used her, she did alright. But the second I got Hersher of Thunder, I basically never used her again. She is fun to use, granted. And you can craft her Stigmata. So if you really like using her, you can. Just know that she's heavily outdated. But she is very, very fun to play. She's very fast, very snappy. But again, she is outdated. And she doesn't provide any support to the team whatsoever. And there's nothing she does that the other Lightning Valkyrie DPSs that you can get won't do better. So that is my opinion on Dark Bolt Jonin. Although I will say, if you don't have anything else other than her, she will still work, just she will be replaced the second you get something like Hersher of Thunder, Mobius, or Hersher of Origin. She's good for free to plays, but I would not invest too heavily in her. But again, she is fun to play, so there is that. And that basically does it when it comes to my coverage of the SP Valkyries and why you will absolutely want them. Now, as I stated at the start of the video, you are going to want Eden and Phyllis. You are definitely going to want them for sure. They will offer the most value to your team, even if you don't bring them into their signature elemental team. They offer so much value with their heavy SP generation that you can basically put them on any elemental team if you don't have anything else going. Now again, when it comes to Grayshow, she is the best physical support right now outside of Hersher of Sentience. And again, it's very good that she's craftable. Ichon, which I mentioned earlier, she's irreplaceable for fire teams. You pretty much need her for her heavy SP generation for fire teams.
Thank
you, Fischl. Fischl, once again, will be a good secondary asset after you've made Eden to help your lightning DPSs. So definitely recommend her as well. And forget Haxor Bronia, which again is one of my favorite characters to use when it comes to being an SP Valkyrie. She brings so much value to your ice teams. It's one of the reasons I have her at SSS. What can I say? She is very, very good. Now I wish I could say... I wish I could say the same for Carol, but I simply can't. I can't recommend her, especially since we know we're getting new SP Valkyries. We'll be able to make ourselves, and she'll basically perform her niche even better than Carol herself. So she's definitely at the lower end of my recommendations. Now, Longleg Terry, she's not as good as Grayshow, but she does have the advantage that... Let me actually see, is her weapon craftable? No, it isn't. She does have the advantage that her stigmata are craftable, unlike Grayshow. So she is a very good option for free-to-plays if you don't have any other choices right now. She will do well, just know that if you have a geared up Grayshow, she will basically outperform her in every way.
この瞬間、ここがわらわの帰る場所じゃ。
Now, unfortunately, I really can't recommend Yae Sakura because she's the only DPS SP Valkyrie, so she really doesn't offer anything to the team, which is heavily unfortunate. But yeah, that's basically all my thoughts when it comes to all the SP Valkyries you can make. Thank you all so much for sitting through this video. Consider leaving a like to help it spread along YouTube, because that's how the algorithm works. Leave a comment suggesting what you would like me to make next related to Honkai. I was actually thinking of what characters I recommend you craft in the shop outside of SP Valkyries. But yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing so you see more content like this. And I guess that will do it. I will see you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Bye!